Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of Harrison Talks Pod, episode 50. I can't believe it's episode 50, but then again, it's been a lot of work, so I can kind of believe it. At least a lot of work for a guy like me. I hope that you're having a great day today. Last week was a super fun episode, had some guests on, and we talked about the East mostly. This week, we got to head back over to the West because there are two teams that I mainly want to talk about this week. First being the Nuggets, they have been winning a lot of games and having a lot of good competition without Jokic, who has been missing since December 30th when he went down with injury. And we'll talk about his return and their successes without him. They've been looking really, really nice. On sort of the other side of things, the Houston Rockets, who started out good on the season, even without Fred Van Vliet, are 3-5 in their last 8, but they did have a nice win last night against the Timberwolves without Anthony Edwards. So we'll talk about them in context and what they should expect the rest of the season. And I know there is some optimism with Fred Van Vliet this season, but I don't know how much of it is there actually. Those are the two main teams that we are focused on today, but we do have to start with a few minutes of the Clippers. We covered them 2 weeks ago because they were winning games. 2 weeks later, now, today, they are still winning games, now have won 12 of their last 14, including a overtime win against the Raptors last night. Very nice win there. So usually I try to spread teams out, not cover them, a few weeks break in between. But if they're winning like this, especially if it's the Clippers, a team like this, we got to cover and see what is going on with that team and if it's legit or not. So let's get into it. Like, subscribe, do all the YouTube things, and let's go. So we will talk about the Clippers first, get that out of the way, and then I'll try to not talk about them too much because this is leading into our main segment today. As I mentioned, they've won 12 of their last 14. They won against the Raptors in Toronto last night, 121 to 117 in overtime. And it's a perfect time to talk about them again because this was a great example, a snapshot of why this team might actually be competitive this season. It's hard. If it was any other team besides the Clippers, like literally any other team besides the Clippers, I would have more confidence, I think. But and it's like until they get there in the postseason, it's the optimism for me will only go so far. You can let me know if you feel different about this team at all, or if you've had any different feelings there. They were losing by 8 points in the final 3:35, 109 to 101. The Raptors then went on to miss six straight shots, and then James Harden went on a personal 8-0 run on his own, leading into overtime. Harden opened overtime with four straight free throws, and the Clippers controlled overtime pretty much from there on. So, very impressive win. Another win that the Clippers get in the clutch, and one that they were able to come back from and control in the clutch throughout overtime. They hit 26 of their 30 overall free throws. So that was great. James Harden ended with 31 points, 10 of 10 assists, including 9 of 10 from the free throw line. His usage was nearly 38%. So it's just, prime James Harden minutes, right? But the decision making is really what drives that Clippers offense and has been a lot of success for that team recently. Zubac had another nice game, 16 points, 14 rebounds, plus 17 in the net rating this game. Very, very efficient game by him. Jordan Miller had 19 points. That's great. Chris Dunn, 4 steals this game. So this team is winning on both sides of the court right now. And I just can't believe it. I couldn't believe it 2 weeks ago when we were talking about them going on their initial win streak, but they've now won 5 in a row, and yeah, 12 out of their last 14. In the last 14, their net rating is plus 9.6. Offensive rating is 121.6. Modern NBA. And their defensive rating is 112. So it's not just one side. It's not just them making their shots. It's a lot of good decision making, better decision making throughout the season, and just improved defense overall. So more surprises is just how well balanced this team is. In these last 14 games, their efficient field goal percentage, excuse me, is 58%. Their true shooting percentage is 63%, and their assist rate is almost at 60%. So they are relying on decision making and on their ball movement. They're kicking it to the paint. They're doing their kickouts. They're getting to the free throw line. They're not just relying on one style of offense. Defensively, their defensive rating is on nights they win mostly in the 108 to 113 range, and they're at 112 as I mentioned during this 14 game run. And their defense has given them a lot of margins as well as having a better, more productive offense. So Kawhi Leonard in the last 14 games, plus 16 in his net rating, also a high usage organizer alongside Harden. Zubac has looked fantastic during this run, and I think they are just winning a lot of close games. They're winning a lot of ugly games some nights, winning a lot of games on the road. So we'll keep tracking it. I I don't really know what else to say besides I had to cover them for a few minutes and I'm just very surprised and I'm just watching more and more Clippers basketball now that they are just playing better. So that's it. We'll check in again if they keep it up. But now let's move on to the Denver Nuggets without Jokic. So of course we view the Denver Nuggets as one of those top 4 teams in the West. But can they remain stable without Jokic? He went down December 30th with an injury as it being a knee injury and perhaps some PTSD from NBA fans and NBA organizations, that makes a lot of people nervous. But I guess it was close to the best case scenario, considering that Jokic is looking at a late January return. And let's sort of cycle back around to that at the end when we talk about the expectations for them end of this month, end of this season with Jokic coming back. So there's a bit of yin and yang, and something that I'll do for all 3 teams we're talking about today is how their last game they played is a good example of what the rest of their season could look like. And all 3 of these teams won their last game. Nuggets played 2 nights ago against the Mavericks. Mavericks are interesting. I'll have to talk about them more, but most likely tanking. Anthony Davis most likely out for the season. Who knows if he gets traded? And we'll be playing against other teams that are trying to tank. Like they just played a very interesting game against the Utah Jazz. But at the same time, they have Cooper Flag and they lead the league in clutch games played 30 overall. They are 13-17 in clutch games, pretty much on average with how many games they've won this season. So, little brief talk about them. The Nuggets won against them 2 nights ago, 118-109, which means these 8 games without Jokic, they are 5-3. Denver at one point led by 23 and then absorbed a push by Dallas late. Overall, Denver shot 49% from the field, 42% from three. Dallas did not adjust at all. Super frustrating. But again, who knows if they're trying to win games? 44% from the field, but they shot 5 of 34 from three. It's really hard for me to watch games like that. But that's about 15% from three. Nuggets shot efficiently at a 59% efficient field goal percentage, and their net rating as a team was plus 9.4 for this win. Cooper Flag went out in second quarter with an ankle injury, but was seen on the bench. After that, did not play this last game against the Hornets. They played this last night. Hornets, I believe. In early on in the fourth quarter, Dallas had cut the lead to 5 without him, but then the Nuggets went on a 13-2 run, including a Hardaway 3, a Murray 3. Then at the end, Murray hits a jumper, Gordon hits some free throws to seal it, and they win by 9 points. Jamal Murray, 33 points, overall 5 assists, led the team in net rating at plus 13.3. Aaron Gordon offered great spacing, 22 points for him. Peyton Watson might be the biggest surprise of this franchise. Man, so much fun to watch. 18 points, great two-way efficiency from him. Tim Hardaway Jr. has had some nice games, offers nice spacing, and a great momentum shift in this game. I think it's a pretty nice snapshot of where Denver is without Jokic, and the optimism would be super high for me if I am a Denver fan. If I'm a realistic one at least. So they are 5-3 without him. The margins have been narrower without him, and some of the losses they have get away from them, kind of spiral along with the lack of ball security and the turnovers. So it's been a nice stretch of games, and I think perhaps, I mean, you never want players, especially Jokic, to be injured, but it might be important for this team to figure out what their identity is when Jokic just isn't on the floor because we know Jokic is high usage and is going to be the player that shifts a lot of these games and makes up for a lot of these problems they have in losses without him. So overall, whether it's win or losses, they have less interior pressure, of course, without him. They're relying more on their 3-point attempts, which we saw in the Dallas game. And they're more volatile, but on games that they are winning, their efficiency numbers on their shooting is remaining very, very good. Points in the paint have gone way down in these last 8 games. It's at 37.3. Their season average overall is 49.5, which is great. No surprises with Jokic, of course. They're relying more on their pull ups without Jokic, so less on the catch and shoot. I guess a question that I'd like to ask any listener, and one that I'll try to answer, is Is benefiting the right word? Again, we don't want Jokic to be injured, but who is benefiting the most in this time where Jokic just happens to be out? Is it Peyton Watson? It sure seems like it is. But is it Jamal Murray anchoring the offense and helping control that flow as well? Because I think they're figuring a lot of things out and they're going to have a deep rotation if they can get all of their players healthy by the playoffs. And these rotations probably look different than what they were expecting from a month ago. So I mentioned their shooting on their losses, their opponents' efficiency remains stable, and they are relying more on switching on their defenses. At least that's what my eyes are telling me. They are just being more switch heavy without having Jokic on the floor. In these 8 games, their defensive rating has been as low as 108.3. So their defense on their wins has been very, very nice. Jamal Murray has been a great anchor. Peyton Watson, great surprise, great downhill pressure, offering a lot on both sides of the ball. Tim Hardaway Jr., I'm always a fan of. Great veteran presence, great spacing valve. Of course, is offering that 3-point shot. Jalen Pickett has been a great surprise these past couple of weeks. Had 29 points. Is that right? Was it more than that? But has had some great breakout games off the bench. Again, I think the depth of this team is going to be great. I mean, this might be a team that could run 9, 10 players in the playoffs or run small, big guard lineups depending on who they're playing. They might be my top pick in the West if they are all healthy at the end of the season. Because it will, of course, rely on the success of their duo of Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. But Jamal Murray's been playing great without him. And what will they do, this organization, if they can remain a winning percentage, I guess, over 500 without Jokic? They're 5-3. They've had some bad losses, but if by the end of January, leading into that All-Star break next month, if you're still a top 4 team in the West, do you control Jokic's minutes more, or do you have him come back later? I will be very interested in seeing what that looks like. Because right now, they're figuring out their identity, their structure, and it's surviving without Jokic, but without his stabilization, some of these losses do get away from them. I think it's a great spot for this team to be in. Uh, Opposed to their offense just completely falling apart without their star player. So, well coached, well executed, and it seems like this roster is really buying into this next man up mentality. So I think Jokic coming back doesn't need to carry the team immediately. So I'll be fascinated to see um, bring Jokic off the bench. Do it. Do it. Give him some bench minutes. That's always fun for me. But perhaps we see him on a minutes restriction early on. The goal will be, of course, just be out of the play in once the playoffs come around. But I'm not surprised if they are top two, three, four. I don't think it'll be two, but top 3 or 4 team in the West, no matter what they do. But if even if they were out of the top 4, I still wouldn't want to compete against them again if they are all healthy. They might be the best in the West if they are. So I think Dallas was a great snapshot of how they can dominate with their ball control. Their defense, their rebounding is keeping them relevant every night without Jokic. Their losses will correlate with how many turnovers they're getting. And this has been a great example of how they can survive when they have non Jokic minutes. Just hopefully he's back sooner than later. So now talking about the Houston Rockets, and I didn't say it in the Nuggets segment or the Clippers segment. Nuggets are currently third place, but they are tied for second place with the San Antonio Spurs at 28 and 13. Timberwolves are fourth at 8 games behind, 27 and 15. And then the Rockets, who we'll talk about now, are currently at fifth at 24 and 15, kind of been hovering around that middle 4-5 spot. And as I begin this segment, I've been thinking a lot about if the beginning of the season, where they were winning a lot of games with Kevin Durant, but without Fred Van Vliet, if that is more of a surprise now that we have games where they have lost multiple games in a row, or in this case, we are talking about them because even though they won against the Timberwolves last night, they are 3-5 in their last eight. I said it's a yin and yang thing. Denver's 5-3 without Jokic in their last eight. The Rockets are now 3-5. 24 and 15 isn't bad, and I think it sort of evens out to where exactly I would imagine them in the Western Conference. It shows how good the Western Conference really is. And I think overall, we're going to talk about Kevin Durant more when we talk about the key players. Of course, Kevin Durant is an all star this year. Shingun, now, I said it last week, and I still don't know because I guess I just don't really care that much. I don't know how they separate the world and the USA All Star teams, but Shingun would be like borderline, but has taken a dip in these last 8 games, as well as some other role players as well. But there are some positives that have remained consistent. They have just been more in a problem solving mode than more in the beginning when they were dictating their own offense. Some of this would be solved by Fred Van Vliet, and some of it would be complemented with Fred Van Vliet on the floor. Honestly, with as good of a rebounding and defensive team this Rockets team is, I really, really wish he was out there. Said it before, one of my favorite, or I've said underrated. I think Fred Van Vliet is still underrated, even though a lot of people probably rate him correctly. I'm rambling. Let's move on. So they did win 110-105 against the Timberwolves last night without Anthony Edwards. It was a one possession game late. The Wolves were able to cut the lead 105-102, but then Houston closed it out at the free throw line. And like the first two teams and the last two games we talked about, I think it kind of is very symbolic of where they are this season and why this season kind of makes sense. It started out positive and they've taken a downturn, and that makes a lot of sense for a team that has a lot of talent but is still an overall young team, a team that has a lot of young players on it. The offense has shifted, the efficiency has gone down these last 8 games, but the rebounding, actually, in some stats, has gone up, and the defense has remained pretty consistent. So, if you're having breakdowns on all ends, of course, that would be a lot worse. Uh, Even in these last 8 games, even in the games that they did win, a lot of them were in thin margins. They've had 21 games in the clutch this season, which is kind of right in the middle, and they've been having more of a difficult time creating separation on games where they win. So they are surviving by control right now. They don't seem to have as much momentum, or as I said, they seemed like they were able to dictate more of their offense early on, and I expect that they get back to that at some point with the combination of the talent and having Kevin Durant on your team. They are 24 and 15 on the season. They have a plus 6.4 net rating, and their offensive rating is 119. But in the last 8 games, it has been a -4 net rating, and their offensive rating has dropped to a 108.1 in those 8 games where they went 3-5. So on defense, they are not collapsing, but these margins are disappearing on the offensive end, which is where they are losing games. So in the first 31 games for them this season, they scored 120 points or more in 15 of those games, and they had an offensive rating of 120 or more in 18 of those 31 games. Kept pressure on a lot of these close losses that came in the clutch. I'm going to scroll down because I want to know it now. In the clutch this season, they are 9-12. So they were very close on a lot of games where they still lost. So, what else now that I messed up my notes? Let's just move ahead. Um, their shooting has been decent this year. They're shooting about 48% from the field and about 37% from the three. And the three is the biggest drop off in these last 8 games. They are shooting just about 27% from the three, and they're only shooting 46% of their effective field goal percentage. So all areas have gone down, not shooting well these last 8 games. Overall for the season, they are kind of right in the middle. Assist have not dipped that much, which is great. They are still trying to, create offense. They're still having ball movement. Maybe their turnovers have gone up and their assists have gone down. But on the season, they averaged 24.7 assists per game. In the last 8, they're averaging 21 with an assist percentage of 54, which is almost right at their season averages. The only thing that's really different with this is their pace has gone down. They are creating offense later on in the shot clock as of lately. So that might be something that you see them change as they get more adjusted to their offense. Let's say it that way. Defense has been great. On the season, they're 112.6 rating, and in the last 8 games, it's actually gotten better slightly to 112.1. Their opponents' field goal percentage has gotten worse, or in that case, better for them. And they are getting a lot of stops that are turning into half court possessions. For example, in this last game against Minnesota, their defensive rating was 107.1, but they still only won that game by 5 points. Not that it matters how many points you win by, but it was a game where you have a great defensive rating, but you are playing in the clutch until very, very much towards the end of the game. What am I trying to say? Rebounds, if you've been following this team, of course, they have been great on this season. They lead the whole league, 49.2 rebounds per game. They lead in offensive rebounds, I'm pretty sure, as well. Their offensive rebounding rate on the season is 41%, which is just ridiculous. And actually, their rebounds and offensive rebounds has increased these last 8 games, uh, but that has not resulted in higher second chance points. That has pretty much remained the same for the season average as well. But hey, it hasn't dipped. Hasn't dipped. Kevin Durant um, has had a higher usage these last couple of weeks. Is certainly the one who's expected to stabilize the offense, but as I mentioned, he's more so solving problems right now than actually trying to dictate their offense and control their leads. He's averaging 26.3 points per game, 64% true shooting percentage, plus 8.5 in the net rating on the season. And in the last 8 games, he's averaging 29.5 points per game. His net rating has gone down, but it's still a positive 1.8 because most players in this stretch are in the negative. Carrying a lot of responsibility, perhaps too much responsibility at time. He's Kevin freaking Durant, though. Alperen Şengün has had a great season, averaging 21.6 points per game, a positive 7.1 net rating, 6.4 assists. In these last 8 games, it has dipped quite a bit, 16.2 points per game and a negative 7.5 net rating. And that is very similar. Wouldn't call. I mean, Chingun's not a role player, but it's very similar to other players and role players on this Rockets team. Ben Thompson has been great. He's played a big role in setting this Houston Rockets identity. His net rating is even higher on the season at plus 8.2. In the last 8 games, he's had a higher usage, and his net rating has dropped to a negative 4.3 in that stretch. His defense remains the backbone, but he's still a developing player, so uh, yeah, it's hard for these players to do everything all the time, I guess is what I'll say there. Reed Shepard's been a great surprise this season, of course. Shooting 41% from three overall, has a positive 7.7 net rating on the season, but the last 8 games has been maybe the worst at negative 8.3 and has a lower efficiency in his shooting numbers. But has been great and been very fun to watch alongside Kevin Durant. So, right, negatives the last 8 games, and I think it is kind of evened out to where this Rockets team might fit in the West. Will they have difficulty competing? I think this team will be very competitive against any team in the West, but I think it's going to be difficult as well, uh, given that there's some nights where they have trouble making their shots and stabilizing their offense. Last 8 games, late fouling, more missed rotations. These are just things that I had kind of noticed watching. Um, Looking at the tracking, I think they uh, don't rely on their half court as much in these last 8 games. They're giving up possessions early. They're shooting maybe not the best shots earlier on in the shot clock. So there is a collective steadiness and cohesiveness that they will play towards, and is very expected on a team that has so many young, developing, but very exciting players. So it's expected that they might drift from time to time. And at least in these past 2 weeks, we're not talking about an 8 game losing streak. We're talking about a team that could easily be 500 in these last couple of weeks as well. It's just a powerhouse of a conference. All right, we're about done here. 9 and 12 in their clutch. Their net rating in the clutch is negative 9.2. In the last 8 games, they were in the clutch 7 times, resulting in a 3 and 4 record. And for amount of clutch games, they are right in the middle of the league at 21 games. Uh, they don't seem to be surprising teams as much. They need to make sure they are executing their offense and maybe not always relying on Kevin Durant, making sure that he doesn't have to take on a higher usage all the time. And I've kind of gone on longer than I wanted to, so I think let's kind of close it out. They have not lost their identity. It's a matter of offense and shooting efficiency at this point. Very fun team to watch, though. Guys, I hope you have a great rest of your week. Actually, we're starting the week with this. Hope you have a great start to your week and a great NBA basketball week as well. Like, subscribe, do all the YouTube things. If you're somewhere else, like, subscribe there. Share this podcast with somebody. And I will see you next time.